Good morning, children. Sai Ram. I welcome you all to the online class of economics. Children, today I'm again going to continue with the same chapter, that is chapter number 1, and the name of our chapter is Indian Economy on the Eve of Independence. Children, this is your third video of this chapter, and in this video we are going to learn the the last topics what we left with this chapter. Now in today's video we are going to learn the demographical profile during the British rule, the occupational structure on the eve of independence, and finally we are going to learn the infrastructure on the eve of independence. So children, in the previous two videos we have learned the colonial exploitation of the Indian economy under the British rule. We have already understood that how the Britishers have ruined our resources as well as the human resources very badly. We have also learned how they have exploited our resources. So this we have already understood. We have also learned the features of the Indian economy on the eve of independence. We have learned why the Indian economy was considered as the stagnant economy, the backward economy. We have also learned the agriculture sector on the eve of independence, why our agriculture sector was backward and stagnant during the British rule, as we have properly, as we all know, that under the British rule our agriculture sector was not in good enough because of the following reasons. There was the low productivity and the production. We have high degree of uncertainty. We are doing the substance farming, the commercialization of agriculture, a gulf between the owners of the soil and the tillers of the soil. Thereafter, we have learned the small and the fragmented land holdings, the land revenue system. These are the basic reasons of the backwardness of agriculture. We do have learned the Indian foreign trade, in where we have learned the decay of handicrafts, the twofold motive behind the systematic deindustrialization. We do have learned this. Now in today's video we are going to learn this three. In today's video we are going to learn the three topics. The first one is geographical, occupational, and the infrastructure infrastructure system on the eve of independence. Children, let us learn first the demographical profile. What is the demographical profile of a country? Children, demographic conditions during the British rule exhibited all features of a stagnant and a backward economy. Here we are focused on the following parameters. So children, the demographic conditions during the British rule exhibited all features of a stagnant and a backward economy. The first one, like the first official census when we have done. So children, the first official census was conducted in the year 1881. Please pay attention here what I am saying. The first population census was conducted in the year 1881. Though suffering from certain limitations, the census revealed unevenness in the India's population growth. So from 1881 onwards, the census of population operations were carried out every after 10 years. I mean, from the year 1881, we are successfully conducting the census of population of India. I mean, from the year 1881, we are successfully determining the population of a country every after 10 years. So this is the first one. Now let us learn in the year 1921. Children, this 1921 will be considered as a year of the Great Divide. Before 1921, children, please understood, India was the first stage of demographic transactions. The second stage of transactions began after 1921. So the year 1921 is described as the year of the Great Pride. Why is the 1921 considered as the year of a great pride? Because after the year 1921 there was a consistent rise in the population of a country. Before that, somehow the population of a country is more, or it becomes less than the last population census. That is why from the year 1921 the population of our country is increasing every we can find we can find the growth in the population of a country from the year 1921. So the demographic conditions during the colonial rule was as follows. Children, uh, the overall literacy level was less than 16%. Out of let's say is only 100% of population, only 16% of population was literate. Otherwise, all are illiterate. 84% of the country's population was illiterate at that point of time. So female literacy was only 7%. Out of the 16%, female literacy was only 7%. Overall mortality rate was very high. Infant mortality rate was 2.18 per thousand. The infant mortality rate. First, we have to understood what is the infant mortality rate. Children, infant mortality rate refers to the rate, the death rate of children before below the age of 1 year per thousand live birth was very high. Out of 1,000 children who have born and below the age of 1 year, they have been died. They were being died away. So this shows the infant mortality rate was very high. So in India, the infant mortality was very high. It was about 218 per thousand. Out of 1,000 small children, the infant who had born, out of the 1,000 infant, 218 infant was died just because of any diseases, and either the pneumonia or either some other like and the major problems. So while at present it is only 32 per thousand. So the high infant mortality is a sign of poor healthcare system associated with the extreme poverty. So we have a poor health facilities. The public health facilities were either unavailable to a large mass of population, or when the availability were highly inadequate. So as a result, water and airborne diseases were widespread, and it took a huge toll on life. So infant mortality I have explained. It is the total number of infant dying before reaching 1 year of age per thousand live birth in a year. So it was 218 at the time of during the British rule, but now it is almost 44. You can say 44 per thousand in the year 2011, and presently it is 44 per thousand, because the last population census was conducted in the year 2011. Next is extreme poverty was present. There is always the poverty widely spread everywhere. Next is public health care facilities were either unavailable to the to the large chunks of populations, and water and airborne diseases were rampant. Children, next is the birth rate and death rate. Children, both birth rate and death rate were very high nearly 48 and 40 per thousand respectively. I mean, high birth rate and high death rate suggest a state of massive poverty in the country. So, birth rate basically refers to the number of children born per thousand in a year, and death rate refers to the number of peoples lying per thousand persons in a year. So, both the birth rate as well as the death rate were very high at nearly 48 and 40 per thousand respectively. Next is the expectancy. So, children, the life expectancy, that is the average life of a person, was as low as 32 years, while presently it is 69.4 years. So, so low life expectancy reflects lack of the healthcare facilities, lack of awareness, as well as lack of means to avail them. So, this is basically the demographical profile of our country during the British rule. Now, now we are moving ahead, and children, one more thing I want to pay your attention about the year of the Great Pride. Like in the history, as we all know, 1921 is regarded as a year of the Great Pride. Please pay attention here because this is a question which maybe it comes in the board examination. Is this an important word? Prior to 1921, children, the population growth in India was never consistent. Size of population kept fluctuating, increasing in one census and decreasing in the another. So, after in the year 1921, the population in India recorded a consistent rise. So, this the census in the year 1901 show a decline of 0.04 crores in total population, that is from 23.87 crores was the population in the year 1891, and which decreases to 23.83 crores in the year 1901. So you can see that from the population of 1891 to 1901, there was a decrease of 4 crores of population. So thereafter, in the year 1911, the next population census was conducted, and in that year there was basically a rise in the population. So at that point of time, the population, which was 23.83 crores in the year 1901, it is increases like 1 crore to 38 lakhs. So now in the year 1911, the new population of our country stood rose to 25.21 crores. Now again, the next population census was conducted in the year 1921, which shows a decline of 0.07 crores. I mean, if we are comparing it with from the 1911, now in the next population census from the 1911 to 1921, the population of a country was reduced. I mean, we find a decline in the country's population in the year 1921, that is 25.21 crores to 5.14 crores in the year 1921. So this is how we can understand the concept of the year of the year of the great divide. Now, children, we are moving on to the next topic, which is the occupational structure of a country. The occupational structure on the eve of independence. What do you understand with the occupational structure? Children, occupational structure refers to the distribution of working person across different industries and sectors. And during the colonial period, children, the occupational structure of India showed a little sign of change. So, occupational structure basically refers to the distribution of the working population across the primary, secondary, and the tertiary sectors of the economy. You all must be knowing that there are three sectors of the economy. The first one is the primary sector, which is related with the farmers, the producers. Next is the secondary sectors. I mean, the the industries level all will be included in the secondary sectors, and the last one is the territory sector, so in where the consumers have been included. So in this way we have three sectors divided in the occupational structure. So as I just said, during the colonial period, the occupational structure of India showed a lot of change. The state of occupational structure during the British rule can be summarized as under, which is uh, you can say that the largest share of workforce, that is 70 to 75%, was engaged in the agricultural sector. So, children, at the time of independence, in the year 1951, we have a occupational distribution of a country, which is shown as per the census of India in the year 2001. Children, the primary sector consists of, you can say, 72.7%, 7% of working population. In this primary sector, the major contribution to the towards the GDP is 72.7%. So these peoples are basically engaged in agriculture, thereafter agricultural labor, forestry, fisheries, animal husbandry, and plantations and mining. These are the these four major, you can say, classifications are included in the primary sector. Next is the secondary sector, in where the small and the large scale industries are included. So small and large scale industries contribution was only 9%. So 9% was for the small and the scale industry. Now we are going to learn the secondary sector. So in secondary sectors, the total occupational distribution of India at the time of independence is like 10.1%. So the contribution is divided into the two categories. The first one is the small scale and the large scale industries. Their contribution is 9%, and the next is the building construction, that is 1.1%. Then the third one is your territory sector, in where the trade and commerce, the transport, the storage and communication, the other services have been included, and this territory sectors is 17.2%. So their occupational distribution at the time of independence is 17.2%, in where trade, commerce, transport, communication, storage, etc., and other services have been included. Now, children, uh, from this point, we have a few observation. Now, what are the observation behind it? The first observation is the agriculture. Children, the agriculture was a principal source of occupation in the eve of independence. So, children, on the eve of independence, about 72.7%, as I just said, 72.7% of working population was engaged in agriculture. So, the percentage of population dependent on agriculture is much less in the advanced countries of the world. For instance, in England and America, if you just see, only 2% is there, and in Japan it is only 12%, and in Germany only 4% of the country's population is dependent on agriculture. So these countries have less contributions towards the agriculture, and the major population of these countries are dependent on the secondary sector as well as the tertiary sectors. But in our country, 72.7% of the working population is engaged in agriculture. That is why we can say that our country's economy is known as the agrarian economy. Next is the industry, the secondary sector, children. It has an insignificant source of occupation we can find. So, children, on the eve of independence, barely 9% of the working population is engaged in manufacturing industries, mining, etc. So, if we compare it with the other foreign countries, as against of it, it is 32% in the USA. In USA, 32% of Americans, you can say America's population is doing industries. I mean, they are running industries, whereas in England it is 42%, and finally in Japan that is only 39% are engaged in these activities. So in industries we have the small and scale industries, the building construction. So only 9%, I mean only 10.1% in India's population are doing or are engaged in, you can say, the industry, whereas 32 percent in America, 42% in England, and finally 39% in Japan are engaged in the industry sector. Next is the unbalanced growth. Children, this kind of table shows an unbalanced growth of the Indian economy. Growth is said to be balanced when all the sectors of the economy are equally developed. If we're talking about agriculture, I mean, agriculture should be improved, and meanwhile, the industry as well as the territory sector should be improved. So, in case of India, the secondary and the tertiary sector were in the infant stage of growth. So, hence the conclusion, we can say that the Indian economy at the time of independence was lopsided and therefore a backward. Now, children, we are moving to the next topic, that is infrastructure on the eve of independence. So, children, infrastructure refers to the element of economic change, that is means of transport, communication, banking, power, energy, and the elements of social change like growth of educational, health, and housing facilities, which serve as a foundation for the growth and development of a country. So the infrastructure facilities during the British rule was very poor, children. Some factors some factors are made a developed basic infrastructure like road, railways, ports, water transport, post and telegrams, but the main aim motive behind such infrastructure development was to serve various colonial interests. So during the British rule, children, we have a lack of this infrastructure facilities, as this was very poor at that point of time. Some such efforts were made by the Britishers only for their own benefits. I mean, they have introduced the roads, they have made the railways, ports, water transport, posts, just for their own benefit. I mean, to maximize their own personal interest. So the state of infrastructure was inherited from the British rule as it is discussed below. The first one is the roads. Children, they have introduced basically the roads. The colonial exploitation, the colonial administration could not accomplish much on the construction of the roads due to the scarcity of funds. So the roads that were built primarily served the interest of mobilizing the army and shifting the raw materials. So, children, due to lack of the proper funds, what the Britishers have done, the Britishers have made has had made the road on such places where they are feel free, or when they feel confident to mobilizing the army and shifting the raw materials from one place to another place. So if I mean, to fulfill these facilities, they have made the road to the certain places, whereas the outer places they have not introduced the routes. Second is, I mean, just they have not made the roads on the other places. They also there always remain a acute shortage of all weather roads to reach out to the rural areas during the rainy seasons. So as a result, the people living in these areas suffered badly during the natural calamities and the famines. Next is the railways. Next is, children, the railways. Effect of railways. Children, understood that the Britishers' most important contribution was to introduce the railways in India in the year 1850. So the railway affects the structure of India's economy in the two important ways. Children, the first is it railways enabled the people to undertake long distance travel. It broke the geographical and the cultural barriers and promote the natural integration. Second is it enhanced the commercialization of the Indian agriculture, which adversely affects the comparative self-sufficiency of the villages economy in India. So, the as the Britishers have introduced the railway, they have introduced the railway in such a way so that um, they can enable the people to undertake the long distances travel, and just because of they want to increase their own marketing in the in the Indian economy, they have introduced the railway so that they can make available their own product in the different parts of a country, in the different areas where they want to make available their products. So on that behalf they have introduced the railways. So the railways always promote the foreign trade, but it benefit the Britishers more than the Indians. The construction of the railway leads to huge economic losses to the Indian economy. The volume of the India's export trade undoubtedly expanded. It provides employment opportunities to the poor. It helps in integrating the nations. Next is Chilean water, air and water transport. Chilean, the British government took measures for developing the water and the air transport. However, this development was far from the satisfactory. For the communication also they have also done something. So if we're talking about the communication, children, the post and the telegrams were the most popular means of the communication at that point of time. So the introduction of the expensive system of electric telegraph in India served the purpose of maintaining law and order, and the postal services, despite serving a useful public purpose, remained all through inadequate. Now we are going to learn behind the reason behind this infrastructural development. Children, if the basic objectives of the British government is to develop the infrastructure was not to provide the basic amenities to the people but to serve their own self interest. So the reason behind of infrastructure development is, children, as I just said, the road was built for mobilizing the army within India and for drawing out the raw materials from a countryside to the nearest railway station or the pond or the port, and to send this to the England or other lucrative foreign destinations. So that is the reason why the roads have been started or been built. The roads were built for mobilizing the army from within India. I mean, they wants to bring the army in India and to export or to drawing out the raw materials from a countryside to the nearest railway station or the port. They are going to supply it at the. I mean, they are going to place the raw materials to the nearest railway station or to the port, and then only they are going to shift that raw materials to their own country or to export any foreign countries the with the lucrative the prices. Second is the railway, children. The railway was developed by the Britishers mainly for the three reasons. What are the three reasons? The first reason is to have effective control and administration over the last Indian territory. Second is to earn profits through foreign trade by linking railways with the major ports. And the last is to make profitable investment of British funds in India. So this is the reason the infrastructure development has been done. Now the last point on the conclusion basis, we are going to learn the positive contribution as well as the negative contribution of the Britishers. So children, if we're talking about the positive contribution, the first is they have developed the railway system, and the negative impact of this was the per capita income becomes low, because now if they have introduced the railway system, they are basically going to export our own raw materials to their own country free of cost, and to import them by converting into the finished goods in their own machineries in the England. Second is they developed the modern system of communication, like they have introduced the telegrams, that the communication, that the telegrams, or you can say the postal services. They have introduced the electric telegrams were also introduced at a high cost to serve the purpose of maintaining the law and order. The modern banking was also established in the year 1935. The Reserve Bank of India was established. Thereafter, the negative impact is like the you can say the industrial sector was trying with the modernization, diversification, capital building, and the foreign investment. The next contribution is they developed the irrigation work, which created new grains and cotton producing regions. Thereafter, the agriculture. The negative impact was that the agriculture sector was saddled with the surplus labor and extreme low. The next positive contribution is the political and unification of country, and the negative is like the mass illiteracy. So on the conclusion basis, what we can understand that after finishing the chapters, children, student, you all must be know that the social and the economic challenges before the country was enormous. So, children, this is all the the explanation of this first chapter. In this chapter, we have learned basically the colonial exploitations by the Britishers in the different fields of life. I mean, how they have exploited the agriculture, they have exploited the industrial sector, as well as the territory sector. We do have learned the stages of backwardness in the Indian economy as well as in the agriculture sector. We do have learned the the infrastructure sector on the eve of independence, the geographical sector, as well as the occupational sector on the eve of independence. So children, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day, and Sai Ram.